anything. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. It is one thing that I kind of like to continue to be plugged into. I was just talking to Mike. I don't really miss radio because of the just certain things about it that you day by day have to deal with. But I do enjoy being able to learn from candidates and to respect candidates. And I always respect candidates because what they do and what they put themselves out there to face in the public, and then in a vote, up or down, most of us don't have to do that, and we don't face that. So thank all of you candidates. 3 out of the 4 have gone through an election before, 1 has not. We've got 2 men, 2 female. You'll get to learn more about them tonight. I don't think we may be set up for questions, although I'm not quite sure from the audience or not tonight. So we're going to try to ask questions that they need to be faced with before we're done tonight, and we're wrapping up around 7 o'clock if we don't run out of questions before then. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to have the candidates introduce themselves. Instead of me telling you background of these candidates, they will introduce themselves as they see fit and as they would like to. They'll have 2 minutes to do that, and then we'll start in with questions. Each of you will have 90 seconds to answer each question, and then we'll rotate to the next. And then if we want to follow up, or if you want to follow up and say, there's something else I'd like to add, we'll come back to you and give you another 30 seconds. And then when we're done and we're ready for closing comments, you'll have 60 seconds to make a closing comment. So appreciate those who are watching online, as well as the audience that we have in the Board of Realtors meeting room here. Thank you very much for being here, and you're here to support specific candidates, I would guess, but please respect all the candidates through the evening. Cherie Tolson-Reich is closest to me, so welcome. It's good to see you. And if you'd like to have your 2 minutes to do an introduction, we'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, David, and thank you to the Columbia Board of Realtors for having this forum tonight. I think it's very important for the candidates to get their information out to the voters. We need informed voters. I am State Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich. I am finishing up my 8th and final term in the House, State House. I was also mayor of Hallsville for 4 years prior to that. I was the city clerk court administrator for Hallsville for 30 years. For the last 13 years, I've been a legal assistant office manager for a very busy law firm here in Columbia. I'm a certified court administrator and a certified municipal clerk. I consult with cities and courts around the state of Missouri, even till today. I've been helping Hartsburg for the last decade for free, and other cities here in Boone County. I think it is now time for me to put my hat in the ring for county commissioner, because there is a lot of things I see not getting done and a lot of things I would like to get done. Thank you, and I appreciate your consideration and your vote in November.
All right, thank you. The next candidate is competing against Cherie Tolson-Reich, and that is Janet Thompson. Welcome, glad to see you, and your opening comments, please.
Thank you so much. I'm Janet Thompson. I'm the Northern District Commissioner. I've been in that job for 12 years. And as I was thinking about coming to this forum, I thought back to the very first month in which I was the Northern District Commissioner. At that time, I went down to Jeff City with Dwayne Carey, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of this county, to ask the legislature if Boone County could be permitted to enact rental housing standards. And to my shock, that wasn't going to happen. And it didn't happen for 10 years, despite having our chief law enforcement officer working to say we need rental housing standards in this county. It's something that protects the health and welfare and safety of our people. And despite that, our Columbia Board of Realtors actually backed that. Despite that, took 10 years for us to get someone in the supermajority in that body to carry the water to get Boone County the ability to enact rental housing standards. That was Chuck Basie. What this is about local control, because as Cherie talked about a little bit, it's so important for local government to hear the voice of the people, to do what's right for the people of their county, of their jurisdiction. When we are not given that ability by the state, then it's really difficult for us to do our job and to represent folks. So I'm Janet Thompson. I appreciate your support for the last 12 years, and I would really appreciate your support for another 4. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Those 2 candidates are running to represent the Northern District of Boone County. The next 2 are the Southern District candidates, and we welcome Sam Turner. It was nice to meet you earlier this evening, and welcome. And your opening comments, please.
Oh, thank you. I am the rookie on this stage, but my name is Sam Turner. I'm running for Southern District Commissioner. My wife and I, we live in Ashland. I own a small business. I started here in Boone County, just talking to farmers on a day-to-day basis, working with their operations, selling seed and crop protection. I've expanded into 5 counties now. And my wife and I, we have 3 kids. Sterling, who's a kindergarten and at Southern Boone. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I also have a 2-week-old. So if I look like I got bags under my eyes, it's because I do. But ultimately, my kids are what led me to public service. You know, I think about the community I grew up in and wanting to give back to the community that I'm raising my kids in. And ultimately, that led me to run for Southern District Commissioner. And I'd appreciate your vote in November.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Our last candidate to give his opening comments is Justin Aldred. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here, and your comments, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the Board of Realtors for hosting this tonight. Thank you for having me. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Justin Aldred. I have the honor of being the Boone County Southern District Commissioner. I first came to Boone County in 2014 as a lieutenant and battalion signal officer in the 175th Military Police Battalion of the Missouri Army National Guard. Since then, I've fallen in love with this community. This is where I chose to make my home. The Army blessed me with the opportunity to finish up my degree at our state flagship university, Mizzou, and I was blessed to learn about local government through my time at the Missouri State Auditor's Office. I see the work I do now in local government as an extension of the public service I first committed to when I raised my right hand and signed up for the Army. My thanks to the Board of Realtors for hosting this, as the scarcity of affordable housing is a significant problem impacting communities across the state and nation. It's a simple matter of fact that Boone County is projected to need 37,000 additional housing units by 2050. Our joint city-county housing study will provide us paths towards addressing that issue across the county. The success of that housing study is dependent upon community engagement. Simplest way to say that, it's dependent upon good engagements with the people in this room. It also requires a good amount of trust. Trust is the #1 issue local governments face. Every communication my office receives, from economic development to efficiency in government, from elder care to education, on every issue, no matter what the issue is being debated, the real issue being debated is trust in government. When you drive on local roads, you're trusting Boone County Road and Bridge crews for maintenance. When you dial 911, you're trusting that there will be competent, reliable Boone County Joint Communications employees to answer that call. So as we look at the growth our community has undergone, we know we can serve the needs of our community better and bridge gaps in service when leaders from nonprofits, government, business, workers, employers all come together. So with that, thank you once again for the Columbia Board of Realtors for hosting this tonight.
Thank you all for starting us off. I'm going to start with a question that's kind of a generic type question, but it'll help us to get into the flow a little bit better. And then I've got some good questions from the Board of Realtors as they have met and come up with a list of questions also. So it'll be a combination, but we'll also alternate who speaks first. But Cherie Tolson-Reich, I'd like to start with you on this one. I just want you to speak about your campaign. How is it going? What are you doing to organize your campaign? Who is helping you in your campaign? Which of your messages resonates with those when you take a message out? And I'd also like to know, what are you hearing that resonates with you?
Thank you, David, for the questions. There's a lot of questions in there. My campaign is going great. My opponent will outraise me money-wise. She donated her campaign probably close to $50,000 so far. I support a family of 7 and give away all my money to the poor, but it's not a money that wins campaigns and elections. My campaign's going great, and I'm not doing anything different than I haven't for my previous elections. I'm everywhere all the time in this county. I'm at events and talking to people. The last 8 years, though, has concerned me when I hear from Boone County citizens of county problems that I can't solve. And they come to me for help, and I have to tell them that's a county problem. That's a county issue. So again, campaign's going great. I'm very optimistic. You know, we're a purple county, and I'm in it to win it.
Janet Thompson, same questions to you, and I know there are a lot there. You can kind of sort through as you want to. Talk about your campaign. What are you doing? How's it going? Who's helping? If you'd like to go that direction, what of your messages are resonating with those you speak to, and what of their comments are resonating with you?
Thank you, David, for the questions. You know, when I look at the county and this race, what I see in northern Boone County is a group of communities. And I have reached out in those communities, especially to leadership in those communities, to ask them what it is that they look for in local government, what they are concerned about, and who they trust, to Justin's point, who they trust. And they want people who are compassionate, who listen, and who get the work done, and who are in the trenches with them. And I have people who have endorsed my campaign, and that will go out in mailers to those of you who are in northern Boone County. And I think that's important to understand that there's leadership throughout the county, and it's not elected leadership. It is community leadership, people who have been in the trenches in those communities saying, this is what we need. And they've been very happy with my leadership on the county commission and have endorsed me for another 4 years.
Same question to you, Sam Turner, about your campaign. This is your first, if I understand it right. So what does it feel like for you? How's it gone? How are you organizing it? Who's helping? And what messages are resonating both directions?
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. It is my first campaign, so when I announced in November, I didn't really know what to expect, and it's really just been this pouring in support from the community. You know, I live in Ashland, which in this particular district, you know, it's only 4,500 people compared to a much larger district. But like Janet was talking, there's a lot of community there that just really wants to see a change at the county level. When we start talking about what our priorities are, what I'm talking about with voters and what voters are telling me is they don't feel safe in their communities anymore. And it seems like you turn on the news anymore, it seems like there's another homicide in Columbia, there's another stabbing. All these things are, escalating, it seems like, further and further. I like to remind people that it wasn't just 2 days ago I had to pick my son up from Southern Boone schools because of the active threats. So when I think about what my campaign stands for, what direction we're moving in, I just want to make sure when I drop my kids off at school, they're going to be safe. And that's the direction that I think my campaign is going to continue moving toward. Just everything's been going well. We're putting up a lot of signs. We're meeting a lot of people, going to a lot of events, and the response has been very, very positive. So thank you.
Thank you. Justin Aldred, same question to you. I'll repeat it. How's your campaign going? How are you organizing it? Who's helping? What are you saying that is resonating with people? What are they saying that resonates with you?
Yeah, I think that politicians should listen more than they talk. So honestly, it's not really about what I'm saying. It's what I'm hearing on doors. And we've been knocking quite a few doors, whether that be in the urban area, whether that be in the rural area, whether that be out in Rocheport, Ashland municipalities, down in Hartsburg, or within the city limits of the city of Columbia. And what I hear from a lot of people are a lot of the same things. I hear a lot of focus on housing, affordable housing, rent. I hear a lot on food security. And it's very much back to basics. Putting food on the table is incredibly important, no matter where you're at in life, where you're from. The other thing I hear, I'm happy to have the endorsement of LIUNA Local 955. So I talk to a lot of workers. I hear a lot about childcare, as workforce development. I think that's, having to talk to people who have to choose between, can I go to work today, or will I need to find a babysitter for my kids? That is a significant problem that is facing our community. And that's, the type of relief I'd like to put back on Boone County.
Janet Thompson, you'll be first on this question, and it has to do with the master plan. The county is going through a master plan, first time since, I believe, 1996. I actually brought up the 1996 master plan earlier today and started scrolling through it. It's a huge document that goes through a pretty good description of what Boone County was like back in 1996. I struggle with meetings and planning meetings that never seem, so I wanted to see, have we accomplished what that master plan said in 1996 before we write another one in 2024? I don't know if I've reached a decision on that or not yet. But for all of you, my question is just a general reaction to creating a master plan. What are your hopes? What are your doubts? What would you like to accomplish with this master plan that may take us to 2050?
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question and so timely. I hope everybody here has participated in some way in this process because it really is about community. It's going to take the voices of every community and people in every community to make this work. As folks have said before, sometimes in communities, a plan is created and then it sits on a shelf. And that's not a plan that means anything, and it's a waste of time. What's going to happen, I hope, with this master plan, this iteration of the master plan that has the voices of folks across the community, is really to look at Boone County, where we have amazing resources. We have amazing natural resources. But as Justin said, the demographics are pretty clear. We're going to be looking at the need for over 30,000 new homes. So where are we going to put them? And so what we have to do is come together, the jurisdictions are going to have to come together to say, how do we make this work? How do we sustain that beautiful natural resource that is Boone County, the agricultural land, the parks, and also utilize the other land to make sure we can create affordable housing and have the infrastructure to support it. And by infrastructure, I mean roads, and primarily, I mean sewer.
We have some questions about the sewer coming up. We'll go to Sam Turner right now. Your reaction to the master plan, how you would fit into that if elected into this position, what your thoughts are about the master plan.
Well, I think, so my background, I went to MU, my degree's in agriculture economics. So when I think about the economy in Boone County and what's really pushing, seems like particularly growth in the Southern District, Southwest Columbia, down into Ashland, it's the need for more housing, right? Well, that is fine and great, but we also got to make sure that we're preserving our rural lands as well. You know, we have a lot of farmers in Southern Boone County that's, having to make a decision between, well, do I sell this tract of land for another subdivision, or can I keep farming? Can I pass it on to the next generation? And when I'm a commissioner, I want to make sure that those folks have a voice at the commission. Those folks that when we're making these decisions just not only just, well, what does the city of Columbia need to continue to grow, but what does all of Boone County need? And when I think infrastructure, she brought up a great point, Janet did. It's more than just roads and bridges. We know our roads and bridges are failing. We know they're behind, but we also have to get the sewer out there to Southwest Columbia, out to rural Boone County. And as part of being part of the commission, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we are putting our first investment in infrastructure when it comes to growth, and not just going out there and doing whatever we want and hoping it works out.
Thank you. Justin Aldred, same question to you about the master plan.
Yeah, my background with the Missouri State Auditor's Office was in data analytics, so I was very excited for this data undertaking that the commission started. I also want to point out we have 3 public hearings coming up in the fall, so I want to invite everyone here to attend those as this is being presented to planning and zoning. And then what will happen is that planning and zoning decision will become the recommendation to the commission. Then we'll probably have a couple more public hearings after that as well. Looking at the different areas, I spent a lot of time on this master plan project, and it's really is a balance of preservation versus growth. How do we preserve what we have in our current communities, whether that's urban or rural, while also making room for growth, building policy that supports infrastructure growth? And that manifests itself in many different ways. That's, looking at preservation areas, so farmland preservation, rural preservation, conservation buffers. That's looking at transition areas, traffic, looking at the I-70-63 corridor, whether we're going to put highway corridors in this plan or not, whether we're going to, look at rural residential areas as opposed to rural preservation areas. And then, of course, the growth areas as well. So looking at, can we put unincorporated village nodes out in unincorporated Boone County? Is that feasible with sewer extension? Can we work with the Boone County Regional Sewer District to do that? So thank you.
Okay. Sheree Tolson-Reich, same question to you about the master plan.
So the master plan, in my opinion, is not a strategic plan. The last or current actually master plan has sat on a shelf for 20 years. I assume the current commission will vote on a new master plan by the end of the year, and it will sit on a shelf for 20 years. I am a person of doing and not just talking. I'm a get her done kind of person. We passed the sales tax for roads in the 1990s with the promise of paving these roads, chip sealing, concreting, whatever, but yet very few of our roads are paved or chip sealed. Also, the core root of government is public safety and transportation. We don't have enough sheriff's deputies on the roads. Our crime is increasing. I have represented Northeast Boone County for the last 8 years. I see the gangs, I see the shootings, the murders, and everything else. We need to allocate those resources primarily to public safety. Dwayne Carey is doing a great job. I support the sheriff. I've been on ride-alongs with the sheriff's department, and we need to fix these roads. I listen to complaint after complaint after complaint on the roads of Boone County are not being maintained enough and are not being upgraded. That should be a strategic plan instead of a master plan that sits on the shelf.
We're going to have more opportunity for comment about public safety on the sheriff's department and also about roads, but I want to follow up with another question about the master plan. So many of you spoke about preserving farmland or the rural area or the beauty of this county while also allowing for development. Sam Turner, you're first on this one. So how do you balance? You're sitting in one of the commission seats and you've got to make some decisions, and you've got people who say, I want to develop. I should be able to sell this land and have it developed. You've got other people say, we need to preserve. How do you, as it says, balance the need for housing and the desire to maintain farmland and rural character in the county?
Well, that's a great question. I grew up on a family farm. My family still farms. My wife's family farms. Now I run an ag business. It's like whatever I do, I'm always going to be involved in ag, right? And when it comes to trying to preserve farmland, trying to preserve conservation areas or versus development, it kind of comes back to the property owner, right? I'm a big believer in property rights. If you buy a piece of land, that you should be able to do what you want with that land as long as it fits within the county's codes and regulations. And when it comes to, rural farmland, if a farmer wants to sell 10 acres or 100 acres to do agricultural A1 zone ground to put one house on every 10 acres, well, that should be the farmer's right to do that. But if a farmer wants to keep that ground and pass it to the next generation to farm, he should also have the right to do that. So I think if I'm sitting in a commissioner seat, I'm going to turn it over to the landowner. What would you like to do with your property? And I think you should be the one determining what you do with your property.
I want to follow up to you, and anybody else can answer this when you answer also. So are private developers then, or the county departments, determining the county's future and what it looks like? And why would we have a master plan if you can't anticipate who's going to do what in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I spoke against the master plan. I think what we have to do is we have to lay out guidelines for the county. But at the end of the day, if it comes in front of the planning and zoning committee and we have an opportunity to grow this part of this community, well, we have to be able to make adjustments to make sure that we are, as a community, we're honoring property rights as individuals as well.
Justin Aldridge, same package of questions for you. How do you balance the need for housing and desire to maintain farmland and the rural character? And who's going to determine that? Is it going to be year by year as to whoever wants to sell their farm that year, or whoever buys property and says, I'm going to develop it?
This question weighs heavy on me a lot because Boone County is one of the few planned and zoned counties within the state of Missouri. And I can tell you that the worst thing about planning and zoning and being in a planned and zoned county is that you are not able to do everything you want to do on your property. The best thing about being in a planned and zoned county is you have assurance that your neighbor is not going to build a chemical plant or an oil derrick or who knows what, or solar farm, wind farm, what have you, right next to you. It could be just about anything they wanted in a non-planned county, and we see that in our neighboring counties. So to answer the question, I think it's a mix of both. I think there is quite a need to make sure that developers have proper input, that landowners have proper input. I think there has to be trust in that process, once again, to my earlier point, and that comes from good communication, good public communication as well. The other thing I'll add here is if you've seen one planning and zoning decision, then you have seen only one planning and zoning decision.
Sheree Tolson-Reich, same question for you.
So Boone County does have planning and zoning, and we have a planning and zoning commission. They're meeting tonight. They are voting on a rail industrial facility up just 2 miles south of Hallsville. The zoning, you can also get a variance under boards of adjustments. So I am completely for property rights within reason. Just as someone said, you don't want a nuclear power plant right next door to your house. So there needs to be reasonable planning and zoning, but there is also, you can come to a planning and zoning commission, ask for a rezoning or ask for a variance before the Board of Adjustments. So I think we do need orderly planned, so we don't have, industrial businesses right next to a residential area. So I think there does need to be zoning and some efficiency in that without losing all your property rights either.
Janet Thompson, if I need to repeat them, I will, but I think you are well aware of what everybody's been talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much. So this is actually something, and I'd encourage you as you leave here tonight to go over to Ash Court, which is Ash Street's right down here. Go to Ash Court and see a pocket neighborhood that's been created there. I think that's really part of what we're looking at in this master plan, because what we've done for a long time, and I live out in the county and I live on property that unfortunately will never have sanitary sewer because 3 rabbits and a squirrel went down my road. It's hard to get to. But when we look at land that can be developed, that can have infill, that's what we need to be looking at. So we need to look at our planning and zoning regulations to make sure that, first of all, we develop through that infill, and then we develop in an orderly fashion. And this master plan is going to help us. It will maintain property rights, people's property rights. But what it will do is say, you know what, along this area, because you have this transportation network that will support it, there's sewer network that will support it. This is a place where more development can happen. And one of the alternatives is to create a subdivision with green space in there. So I think there's a balance that can be drawn, but I'm hopeful that when we look at the regulations following the adoption of a new master plan, that we can say, could we not do something about getting more infill? Because I think that's a really important piece of this puzzle.
I'm going to ask one more question on the master plan, and this is from the Board of Realtors. I think it's a good one. And we'll start with Justin Aldred on this one. The county is updating its master plan, as we've talked about, and it has partnered with Columbia on a housing study. If any parts of the master plan and the housing study have contradicting recommendations, how would you come to terms with that?
If we've done our jobs right, it won't be like that. But, I think it's a question of, we do need to build a robust relationship with the city of Columbia. We cannot ignore 82% of the population. So I am optimistic about the results of both of those studies, and being involved in both of them, looking at, they're both after the same thing. They're both looking for affordability, housing supply, housing demand, demographics, and employment trends. But I think ultimately that will be the subject of conversations and public comment. I think that is truly the answer there, is making sure that we are hearing the will of the people. It's balancing out, data-driven decisions with the will of the people, making sure that what's on the ground is reflective of what we're seeing in the data.
Sheree Tolson-Reich, the same question. County on its master plan, partnering with Columbia on a housing study. If any parts of those two have contradicting recommendations, how do you deal with it?
So I've been dealing with this sort of thing in Jeff City for the last 8 years. No two people always agree on everything, but I think it's vitally important the county and the city work together. And if they can't be 100% on the same page, you need to sit down to the table, hash out your differences, come to a compromise, mediation, whatever it takes to go back and forth and come up with some common middle ground. You can't always get your way on everything.
Janet Thompson, we'll move to you.
So thank you, Cherie, for talking about mediation. I'm a trained mediator and arbitrator, and that's what I do for a living, is find ways to find those common grounds, to figure out where we need to partner, where we can partner on what we agree, and then move forward from there. As Justin said, I suspect that there's not going to be, if any difference, any substantial difference between the recommendations of both. The master plan is broader and in its scope, because it's talking about things like when you create a community, what does community mean? Is it just housing? Because I look out, for instance, at the Indian Hills area of Boone County, and I look at the housing that we thought was affordable, and it was built out there, but there was no access to public transportation. And there was no grocery store, and there were none of the services that those folks needed to be able to have a life out there. So part of this master plan is not about housing, but it's about community, and how do we build community and make it better for the folks that are living there.
Sam Turner, the same question about making a nice decision between two things that may or may not agree, the master plan and the housing study the city's done.
Well, the nice thing about going last and listening to the first three people all agree and say we all got to work together, it makes my job really easy and say, yeah, we got to agree and work together. And those are obvious things, right? The county commission has to have a great working relationship with city council and the mayor. Like Justin pointed out, 80% of the population lives in the city limits of Columbia. So when we're making decisions as a county, we obviously have to respect the city of Columbia and what their needs and wishes are. And like Cherie pointed out, we have to work together to come together to make a plan. When owning a business and running a business, there are a lot of compromises you have to make when it comes to your P&L to make things work. And so I have a lot of experience, and not to mention I've been married for 8 years now. There's a lot of compromises that happen. So,
David, is it possible to have one more?
I was just getting ready to say, if anybody, I haven't asked this yet, but if anybody would like to follow up for a 30-second addition.
Yeah. So the master plan is actually a product not just of the interest in this community in housing generally, but it's a product of our upward mobility project through the county. And the housing study has been a partnership with the city, but it's being led by our Boone County Community Services Department. So I want to give a shout out to those folks who have put this together and have had community listening sessions across the county to see what it is that's needed and required here in Boone County in terms of housing. Thank you.
Anyone else want to add anything on this? We'll move to talking about the terrifically exciting subject of sewer district.
Yes.
I need to be educated on this, and Cherie Tosin-Rice, you'll start with the answer to this. I don't understand totally all about this. If I buy a house wherever it is in the city or the county, when I flush my toilet, I want it to disappear and I don't want to worry about it again. So I don't think much about this, but I know realtors and you commissioners would have to. How aggressive should the Boone County Sewer District be in expanding the sewer district? And what's your opinion of private on-site sewers?
So I have a lot of experience in sewer systems. Back in the 80s, I oversaw at that time was a lot of money, $1 million new sewer system for the city of Hallsville. And what you're talking about here is you have to follow the sewer. You have a gravity flow, or if you have to put in lift stations. I've worked with the local Boone County Regional Sewer District since the 80s. Tom Rotterman was amazing. He has since moved to a different job. I am literally right now working with the new head director of the sewer district to expand and improve the sewer system in Hartsburg. Like I said, I consult and do a lot of work for Hartsburg. And so sewer is a huge thing in the county. I can tell you from my personal experience, I had a farm south of Hallsville, and when we wanted to put a home on it, well, your lagoon has to be this size, and then you have to put a fence around it, and then you have to put a locked gate on it, on and on and on. It is important that we have these sewer regulations, and we've talked with the sewer district of expanding, but at what cost and who is to pay for it? Developers need to pay the initial upfront cost. The ratepayers of the sewer system, we sold the sewer system in Hallsville to American Water, and our sewer rates tripled. So I'm very knowledgeable about sewer, and it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Just to follow up, and I could ask this of Eldon, are people talking about this when you go and meet with them? I guess they are. I mean, again, I live in the city.
Can I follow up on
Yes,
that?
please.
So, in fact, today I had a resident near the Larry Moore's proposed rail transfer center just south of Hallsville, which was near the farm I used to own and live, like right in my backyard. And he goes, well, who's going to pay for all the utilities to that if the county planning and zoning approve it tonight? I said, well, it better be the developer. He's like, it better not be taxpayers. And I said, no, it better not be taxpayers. So people are concerned. They don't want to have to foot the bill for other people and new development. Through our law firm, we work with a lot of developers, and they've got some projects in the works that I can't talk about, but sewer is the number one thing. You can't plan a development in this county without sewer as the number one thing that has to be figured out first.
If you do talk about it, you might be a lead story in the news. Janet Thompson, the question about sewer district. How aggressive should Boone County Sewer District be in expanding? And what's your opinion of private on-site sewers?
So I have learned a lot about sewer since I've been on the commission. It really is a topic because it's one of those things that if you're going to develop, that's the first question. Do you have access to private sewer? Or to public sewer? Because public sewer is the gold standard. At my house, unfortunately, because I don't have access to public sewer, I have a drip irrigation system. That's what I have. That's the only thing I can do. But it's not as good for the environment. It's not as good for the people who live downstream from me, because that's the bottom line for any of this. It's what goes downstream. And so when I look at public sewer, I think that's something that we need to help them expand as much as possible. And when Cherie's talking about Hartsburg is able now to expand their capacity in Hartsburg because of an ARPA grant made by the county commission. So thank you to Washington for sending those dollars here, because that made us able to give that to Hartsburg. But again, the gold standard is public sewer, and we really need to do whatever we can to help that happen. And it is, unfortunately, the ratepayers, like Cherie said, that private sewer that happened now in Hallsville, their rates have just skyrocketed. The regional sewer district and the Columbia sewer district, they're keeping rates pretty low for the quality of service, and it is the gold standard. It's keeping people safe. It's keeping people downstream safe.
Sam Turner, the same question to you about the sewer district and expanding it, and also private on-site sewers.
Yeah, so when I started my campaign back in November, my number one priority was public safety, right? And my second priority was infrastructure. Obviously, sewer has a huge deal with infrastructure. When I think about where I grew up at, the economy there is dying. Nobody is coming back to Bernie, Missouri to raise a family anymore. They're trying to get out. Boone County is the exact opposite. We've hit on it a couple of times. We have hospitals, universities. We have so many great resources. I can't wait to take my 5-year-old to the football game on Saturday because, well, we live 10 miles from, in my opinion, very biased opinion, the greatest university in the world. And when we talk about infrastructure and expanding in Boone County, we have to make sure that that's our number one priority, and making sure that our taxpayers who already are paying extremely high taxes aren't having to pay any more for sewer.
Justin Aldred, same topic.
Yeah, as it was said before here, where sewer goes, development follows. I want to watch what I say and how I say it because I do sit on the Boone County Regional Sewer District. So after this, I'm going to have to go back and answer them for anything I say that's wrong. But the primary concern that I see is how we can keep rates for ratepayers low while still providing quality service. I really do think that is the most significant issue when you ask about how aggressive the Boone County Regional Sewer District should be. The other thing I'll add to that is, by nature being county versus city, and I don't mean to make it versus, but the city of Columbia is truly situated to take over tax base through annexation, which means that if the county built up in certain areas, the city could, in fact, come along and take those ratepayers, those taxpayers, into their own as they expand out. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad one way or the other. I think a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on that. But I will say the worst thing, my absolute nightmare, would be to see a ring of high capacity, very expensive sewer systems go up in a circle around the city of Columbia, and then see that expansion go out, and then see all that taxpayer money go to nothing.
Let me ask this, and actually I was talking to Brian about this before we started because I don't understand this. I asked the question, if sewers are created through the sewer district in the county, and then the city comes and annexes that, what does happen? So I'll start back and we'll just go down again, the same order that we just did on the same question, because this is kind of like a follow-up.
Yeah, so of course it would have to be a mutual agreement or a contract, so it could go different ways. But I know some areas of the sewer district that have been annexed stay the customers of the sewer district, and others they may enter into an agreement, some kind of mutual thing to that a municipality could take it over. So it varies. It can vary.
Janet, your comment?
I mean, it is a problem, right? It's one of the questions that has put heat into the system in terms of who's a customer of the city and who's a customer of the regional sewer district. And what's happening now is often if you're a customer of the regional sewer district, because it's who has capacity in their system. And so you might be a customer of the regional sewer district, and yet it flows into the city of Columbia's system. So it's a balance, and it's difficult when someone is annexed into the city. Right now what's happening is if you are going to build, and you're going to build and you're contiguous, you are forced to annex into the city of Columbia if you want access to their sewer, which creates a real nightmare, to Justin's point. With that policy, we could have not a ring of private sewer, we could have a ring of lagoons around Columbia because of that policy. Talk about nasty.
Sam Turner?
Yeah, I would like to bring up an example of that exact situation happening right now in Northwest Columbia. There's somebody that they are building a subdivision across from their home. He has a lagoon. He is willing to pay the upfront costs to hook into the sewer system and also obviously pay for the sewer, but the city won't allow him to do that unless he annexes into the city, and he doesn't want to do that. And that's just really bad policy from the city.
Justin Aldred, final thought on this.
The only thing I'll add here is that it is a problem if it is unchecked and unclear. That can be solved by good communication, whether that's between the public and government entities or whether that's between sister political subdivisions. But I think that's also to making sure that we have good communication and making sure that we trust each other. That's the way we solve that.
This may be the most time I've ever spoken about sewers in my life. So I don't know about you all, but we've spent about 15 minutes on this. There is one final question on it, and Janet Thompson, you get to go first. And this is another question from the board that I think is worth asking, especially in light of what you've said. And I think most of you have already kind of addressed this, but this is specific. What role, if any, should Boone County Sewer District have in increasing housing? You talk about developers having to pay for that, but then if I'm going to buy one of those developers' homes, I'm going to pay more because of that, but it may be worth it. I don't know, Janet Thompson.
Let's see if I understand your question.
The question actually is, what role, if any, should the Boone County Sewer District have in increasing housing? And we've talked about affordable housing and the need
Yeah.
for more houses.
I think both the sewer district and the city of Columbia, quite honestly, because they're the elephants in the room when it comes to sewer. They have the most power to impact what happens, right? And the city of Columbia sewer system is a for-profit activity for the city. Regional sewer district is a for-profit. So we have to be able to make that profitable for them, but there has to be a way to balance that. And their expansion is paid for by new customers. So as they get new customers, they can expand. And I think that's part and parcel of what Justin was talking about, having that communication and having the city and the regional sewer district make sure they are talking so that it's not a question of, well, if I put my money in here into these houses, into this expansion, are you going to then take over my customers? I think that's the conversation that really needs to happen so that we don't have the risk to the folks that are putting in the infrastructure that they're going to lose the dollars that it takes to then to do that work.
Sam Turner, same question.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Field of Dreams movie. If you build it, they will come. If they don't have it, they're not going to develop out there. So I think from a sewer district, they're going to have to continue to expand in these areas and then allow the housing to move into that area. Because, if you try to build a subdivision and they got 50 lagoons out there, that's not going to work. We won't get into the over-regulation that Boone County has when it comes to their sewer systems. Like, it's going to have to take an effort from the Boone County Sewer District and working in partnership with the Columbia Sewer District to continue to expand that out there, because it's too big of a liability, too big of a risk if the sewer is not there to keep developing.
Justin Aldrin.
Yeah, so Boone County Regional Sewer District, separate political subdivision from the rest of Boone County government. I think to answer the question that they do have an obligation to be good stewards and to expand housing. But I think that the responsibility is once again to the ratepayer. And that is truly the final say on any decision that's made, is keeping those rates sustainable so that people can live here.
Cherie Tosin-Rush.
So for an example, when we built the Hallsville sewer system, we built it 2 miles west of our city limits. And there were a lot of people out of the city limits that wanted to hook in. And just kind of like Sam said, somebody wants to hook into the city sewer, but doesn't want to be annexed. And so what we did, we hooked those people up, but we charged them 1.5 times city rates. Because we only did voluntary annexation. We were not going to force anybody into Hallsville, even though we tripled in size. One of the things, the sewer district, for examples, in northern Boone County, they do things like the Cedar Gate subdivision, Sunny Slope subdivision, et cetera. And they're doing the kind of a little bit at a time, going into further north Boone County along the Route B corridor. And so again, the ratepayers, what can they afford? We shouldn't put all this expansion for new people, new housing, new construction on those that are already paying. And so it is a fine balance. And I think we have a great board of trustees on the sewer district board. And so I have full confidence in them to work with the county and the city of Columbia.
And it's time for anybody who wants to follow up.
Yeah, I think, Cherie, you're right in terms of taking it deliberately, right? The expansion of the regional sewer district be in a deliberate fashion. And that's when I come back to thinking about Ash Court. And because when you're looking at that expansion of the sewer, of public sewer, it takes more money to get that expanded. And so it doesn't make economic sense for them to go a long way to get to a home, right? Or to a couple of homes. So we're going to have to say, if we're looking at that kind of, expansion of our public sewer, we're going to have to think about infill. And so I think that's going to help guide the master plan, guide the housing study, guide all of that, because we're going to have to do it incrementally and in a much more deliberate fashion.
Anybody else want another half a minute to?
Yeah,
go ahead, Sam.
I just want to hit on one more thing again. we talk about adding affordable housing all the time to the city of Columbia, to Boone County. To get affordable housing, we're going to have to cut some of these overburdensome regulations that developers have to jump through to build. You know, part of the problem we have with developers charging so much money is because of all the hoops and things that you have to jump through to get through the county. And I think that's a really important. You want to make things affordable? Let's start with, at the government level, starting to cut back some of these policies that cost so much money.
Anybody else? I'm going to flush this topic down. Well, let's pick up where you just left off, and I'm going to start with you, Sam Turner. The question that was given to me by the board, how can you make development easier in the county to create more affordable housing? Well, you've just started to answer that by saying stop with all the rules and regulations. Let's be specific. Give us some of the things that you think are overly burdensome and create a difficult climate for a developer and the hoops to jump through.
Well, so my wife and I, we just built a house just last year. And when we talk about some of the different things that we had to go through, as far as you have to pour concrete piers here, you have to do this, you have to bring in 4 foot of gravel here just to make your foundation level. Those are all great things. We should do those as homeowners, but we shouldn't be forced to do so because the counties make us and then have to pay thousands of dollars of structural engineer permits, things like that. Those are, and like Cherie was talking about earlier with the lagoons and sewers, you got to have a fence around it. You got to have a locked gate. These are all great things that you should do as a steward of your land. That doesn't mean you have to be forced by the government to do those things.
Justin Aldred, same question. How do you make development easier and in the county to create more affordable housing? And then we're specifically talking about rules and regulations. For
I have a
developers.
very simple answer for a very complex subject. And the answer I have is listen to developers, meet them at the table, meet them where they are. When you're talking with them, when you're meeting with them, when you see, for instance, I'm not an engineer. I have poured concrete quite a bit in my life, actually, with Mennonites, but that's another story. But you know, I'm not an expert on engineering. I'm not an expert on building roads, but I know that I can meet developers who are, and I can meet people who are, and I can use that knowledge to update policy so it's not archaic. So things like updated modern building codes, by all means, that is, you know, that's something that we can do, and that's something that we strive for. That's part of the reason that we're going through the process that we're going through with the housing study, with the master plan as well, making sure that we are meeting people where they are.
Do you think there are some overburdensome rules and regulations now that the county puts on developers?
I would never say that those were overburdensome, because those same regulations are what keep fire safe, what keeps, roads, what keeps, when you are selling a home later, from that buyer getting a nice surprise once they buy their home. So that's where I'm at on that.
Cherie Tolson-Reich, same question to you.
So I've been doing this for 42 years, and all the municipalities like Centralia, Hallsville, Ashland adopted the Boone County building codes. So whenever a subdivision or you do a remodel or you want to just put a porch on, you have to take out a permit, and everything has to be inspected, even like a little deck. It's expensive. And so I think our regulations, we could allocate lower cost. If we want something affordable, the developers have to pass those costs on. And, you know, we just had a 16% assessed valuation increase in the last 3 years. People can't afford the taxes. And a lot of contractors are like, we have to ask exorbitant amount of money for the realtors. The average price of the home has been in the news in the Columbia area. It's been reported on, and it boggles my mind that the median price of a house in Columbia is so high. People are out. I think almost Boone County is outpricing itself. And I hear a lot of people moving to adjoining counties because Boone County is so strict, so expensive. The taxes are so high. And I think we need to take a close look at that. It's not affordable in Boone County anymore.
Janet Thompson.
So one of the things that again, I'm going to pound this nail into the table as long as I can. One of the huge costs in any building project is the land. And that's something that we really need to look at in terms of building homes in Boone County. I think is looking at our regulations to say, do we need to have such large pieces of land required in various subdivision regulations? I think that's something that we could look at, and we have builders in the audience to start thinking about that, to say, how could that help you lower the cost of that property? That's something just to think about. The other thing, when I look at the regulations, I ask myself, are they necessary, and what's their purpose? Their purpose is safety. And when I look at counties that don't have planning and zoning, and they come to me and they say, you know, this is something that happened in our community, and I said, you don't have planning and zoning, and you don't have regulations, and your folks have no recourse. So those regulations are there for a purpose. But the other piece of this, I think, that would alleviate a lot of the concerns when I talk to realtors, they're surprised by something that happens. Somebody says, oh, but you forgot this. So I think a checklist, and I've asked this of our resource management folks, and we're putting an ombudsperson in that office to make sure that it's very clear the process that they go through, so that there's no surprise as they move through the process, so that they get everything done in an orderly fashion. And I think that will save money as well.
Anybody want to follow up with anything? I just it's just occurred to me as I was listening to this, and a yes or no, and Sam, I'll start with you, Sam Turner. Is a factor of an appealing place to live higher prices?
Ask the question again.
In other words, we want to make Boone County an appealing place to live. If it's demand can shoot up prices. So I'm just questioning, this is not a hard, fast, specific question. It's just an opinion. I'm just wondering if in a theoretical, if you've got an appealing place to live, do higher prices accompany that automatically?
I would assume so, yes.
So I was thinking back to what Cherie Tosen-Reich said about housing prices. And I guess what is our problem? Just supply? We don't have enough houses to bring the price back down? Because I would agree. I mean, I see the average price of a home and median price of a home, and I'm thinking, I'm so glad I've got mine and not in the market to buy one. But it's part of it goes hand in hand. I mean, I don't even know how to do this question any differently.
I think it has more to do with the fact that interest rates are over 7%. I know the Fed just took it down 0.25%, but I think half percent. Yeah, half point. Interest rates are really, really high right now. Just look at, I built a house in 2018 and I was paying 3.5%. I built a house last year, moved into that because my wife really, really wanted it, and I'm going to do what my wife wants. But now I'm paying 7%. That makes a big difference when it comes to supply and demand on housing. It's hard to get people really interested in buying a house right now. I'm sure the realtors know all about it when prices are what they are.
Justin Aldred, I don't know if you sorted through my confusing comment there a moment ago.
Well, I do have an answer for you.
Okay,
and that's simply, fair and inclusive housing is something that every community should strive for. All people in Boone County should have access to safe, quality, and affordable housing. So I am all for cost relief, monetary relief where we can, but not at the cost of safety.
Cherie Tosen-Reich?
I don't know. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was just
wondering. It was a little confusing, David.
Boone County is a nice place to live. And I've read your materials and your interview with the Missourian and things like that. And you want to make Boone County appealing. You want to make it an attractive place, a growing place. If it is an appealing place, does something that comes with that mean higher prices?
Well, everything keeps going up in cost. Inflation has been horrible, from food to gas, et cetera. But not necessarily. I think it is about having a balanced budget without overburdening your citizens with high taxes. At the state, we have to have a balanced budget. We've got all this new marijuana money coming in. Where is that going to be allocated? I think for a good, appealing County of Boone, we need a safety, like the Sheriff's Department needs more funding, and we need better roads. I mean, people are just tired of gravel and the dust it stirs up. So we don't need all these distractions and things going on that are not basics. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of wasteful spending that we could still have the high quality of life that the county of Boone has.
Janet Thompson, we're going to edit all this out because it was a horrible question anyway. So
In terms of housing, I think that's where your question was focused, was the cost of housing. You know, there are going to be places in any housing market where the cost is large, because that's the focus of those folks. That's what they're looking for, and that cost is going to go up. But at the same time, I see builders across Boone County who are looking to find that sweet spot, that place where they can sell a starter house to folks in this community. And I believe that those folks are working at that. Rhonda and Cass Carlson are doing that out at Settlers Ridge. So it can be done. And I think that's an important thing to look at, is how, what is it about that model? Is it a smaller lot? Is it a smaller home on that lot? What is it that makes that work? And last night, for instance, or night before last, I was over at the African American Heritage Trail. They were honoring a member of this community who built affordable housing for his community. And what he looked at was shotgun homes, because at that time, that was an affordable home that could be built in this community. And he looked at it to say, and it probably would have made the folks in the planners in the community's heads spin now, but he found a lot that was big enough to put that home on it, and he was able to build. And that's how that community was built out. So I think we have to be much more nimble with our regulations to be able to say, how can we dial it back a little? Maybe not expect quite so much land, whatever it is, to be able to create that affordable housing. So roundabout, there's going to be McMansions, but we still have to look at how we can build that affordable housing.
Justin Aldred, this question goes to you first. How do you view the county's relationship with the municipalities in Boone County, and how could you improve those relationships?
Yeah, right now I view it as very good, because I meet with the city of Columbia and I meet with municipalities on a regular basis. I think there's always going to be a need. I think there's always going to be more room for process improvement, more room for, different projects, whatever it may be. And we certainly have cities and municipalities asking us for quite a few different things, whether it's Rocheport asking for mosquito control, mosquito spray, whether it's communities asking for flood protection. A great example I think of is the Greater Bonfim Water Project that we're embarking on with the city of Columbia and the city of Ashland. That's a perfect example, because it's kind of shows where we are Boone County. However, the water does not stop at our political limits. It's flowing, as we talked about sewer earlier, Boone County, city of Columbia, city of Ashland. So I think we have a good relationship. We definitely been working on the ARPA projects together, and that's, I think, where we're at.
Cherie Tolson-Reich, your answer to how do you view the county's relationship with the municipalities in Boone County, and how could it improve?
Well, since I've announced my candidacy for the commission, it's been interesting, people coming to me, and this is what I'm hearing people say. The commission, they don't know that they've ever gone around the county before now to give out these big ARPA checks, which is your all's money. It's federal tax dollars that we're over 33 trillion in debt with. I had one Northern Boone County official say, my opponent never shows up unless she wants something. So now all of a sudden they're taking interest in meeting and greeting and getting out in the public. And I've been working with municipalities throughout this county for the last 8 years, but I've lived in Boone County my whole life, and I'm 7th generation. My grandkids are 9th. I'm so proud of the fact that the relationships I've made with MU and other entities here within Boone County in my 42 years of service. So I think relationships could improve.
Janet Thompson, the same question to you. How do you view the county's relationship with the municipalities in Boone County? How could those improve?
So we didn't have ARPA funds to deliver to the county before we were awarded that by the federal government. But we, as Justin said, every relationship can be improved. Our personal relationships can be improved, but that's something that I've been doing since I was elected to office. I talk with all the time with the leadership in all of the municipalities in the Northern District. I meet the people where they are in the churches, in the businesses, in the cafes, on the streets, in the fields, on the roads, and I am responsive. People laugh at me because when I first came to the commission, I said, I just need to be able to put my cell number on my business card and give my cell number out. So sometimes when I look at my phone, I go, I don't recognize it, but I answer the phone because I think that's important. It's always important to be accessible to people and to be cognizant of those communities, because Columbia is the elephant in the room for both the Northern and the Southern District. But those smaller communities are so important. Those smaller communities whose life revolves around their schools and their churches, those are the lifeblood of our county. And so I think it's important to be there and to meet with them and to continue to do that.
Sam Turner, same question to you. How do you view the county's relationship with the municipalities, and how could you improve those relationships?
So when I started my business 4 years ago, I didn't know a single individual like farmer in the area. I literally had to go from farm shop to the next farm shop to build my business to now 5 counties. And it starts with relationships. We talk about government trust. Well, I think a lot of the times the reason why you're getting a lot of questions in your office about trust this, trust that, is because they don't trust this commission. And when I think about relationships with the cities, I've had multiple members of both the city of Ashland and the city of Columbia council members is, I hope you win so that they'll call me back, because they know I will call them back because, well, I had to start a business. Just basically going out cold calling people. And when they call me at 9:45 at night and I got my 3 kids down for bed, like, they know I'm still going to call them back that night. And that's something I can bring to the commission, somebody that's willing to pick up the phone. I might not know the answer to the question right away that they're asking, but I sure will find out, and I will call them back and let them know.
Let's do a follow-up on this real quick, and we'll start in the same order. Justin Aldred, what Sam just brought up, trust and responsiveness of the commission to the citizens of Boone County. Your comment on that?
By all means, there is always room for process improvement. And I think a perfect example is gravel roads. Every single person that I know that has an issue, as a pothole on the road, has called up the county commission. And we have answered as many as we possibly can, because the pothole on the road does not care if you vote red or you vote blue. So on that, by all means, there's always room for process improvement. When we make planning and zoning decisions, unfortunately, there are going to be times when there are winners and there are losers. But ultimately, we put forth and we are there and we are responsive.
What is your experience, Cherie Tolson-Reich, in this campaign with what people are saying about trust and responsiveness of the commission?
So in my 42 years of government service, people know me, people trust me. I have had so many Democrats come up to me over the years and say, Cherie, you are the only Republican we vote for because we know you, we trust you, and we know your heart is in it. And, a commission, it's too bad it has to be a partisan thing, but people trust, exactly like Sam said. I give out my cell phone. In fact, probably everybody in the country has my cell phone. And so people trust me.
Trust and responsiveness of the commission in your experience, Janet Thompson.
So I have to tell you, the first time I ushered at my church after being elected the first time, somebody came up to me and I handed them the bulletin and I said, good morning. And they said, about my road. And, and I said, can we wait until after the service? I think that's what it takes. It's being present for people. And there's Lisa laughing because I think Lisa's had the same thing happen, right? It's, you have to be present for people. You have to be willing to talk to people. And sometimes they're not happy. Sometimes they come at you and say, we're not happy, but you're there for them, you listen to them, and to Sam's point, you may not have the answer, but by gosh, you're going to help try to find the answer for those folks.
And Sam Turner, your comment spurred this, so you're the last one in order here.
Yeah, well, I think we're talking about potholes, right? That's what county commissioners can do something about. Sure, we passed the road tax in the 90s, and well, not been a whole lot of roads paved since then, but now I'm pulling these numbers straight from the Show Me Boone website. The county's general fund has increased $14 million since Janet and Justin were elected in 2020. The all government funds have increased $44 million in those 4 years. So we start talking about trust and transparency. Where's this money going? Because I own a business that travels gravel roads. It's not going there. I promise you that. So when we start talking about trust and transparency, I think these are the questions people have.
We're going to come to Cherie Tolson-Reich, changing the topic here. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of conversations with Sheriff Dwayne Carey when I was doing my previous job, and he is very proud of his sheriff's department, and he's proud that he doesn't have to deal with some of the problems that certain police departments do. You brought up public safety and you brought up the sheriff's department already tonight, but this is the formal question. How do you rate the job Boone County law enforcement does? What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? What are its needs?
So I think Dwayne Carey is doing a wonderful job. I think he has a great sheriff's department. Through the law firm, we deal a lot with the jail and clients needing to be bonded out of jail and things like that. But I can tell you, I've known Dwayne Carey personally since before he was sheriff. When I was city clerk, then mayor of Hallsville and state rep, I have worked with Dwayne, his staff. We have so many Boone County deputies living in Hallsville and northern Boone County. I feel very safe that almost every street I go down in my community, there's a sheriff's car. But also more than that, when Dwayne Carey came to the Capitol, it wasn't that a Democrat was with him, because he knew with a Republican supermajority. I helped go to our budget chair. I helped go to Sandra Karsten, the head of public safety, to get them state dollars for that new law enforcement training center and the daycare center. At first I was skeptical. Was it state's role to pay for daycare? But then I decided yes. They're 24/7, 365. I can't say enough about all our public safety, 911, but the sheriff's department, I think they need more money, and we need to give them more cars on the road and more deputies on the road.
Janet Thompson, how do you rate the job Boone County law enforcement or the sheriff does? Strengths, weaknesses, needs?
So Dwayne Carey, a good friend and an excellent colleague, is one of the best sheriffs in the state. I just say that, and I work with a bunch of the sheriffs, and I've worked with sheriffs on the national level, and he is top notch. One of the strengths in his office, and his office is bipartite. He has his road officers, and he has a detention facility. He has the largest mental health facility in the county, folks. That's what Dwayne Carey runs in his jail, the largest mental health facility in this county. And he has made a commitment with both his road officers and his detention staff that everyone in that staff be what they call CIT trained. And this is a huge benefit to Boone County. CIT means Crisis Intervention Team Training. These folks are trained in a 40-hour session, so they're not mental health professionals, but they have 40 hours of training to de-escalate. And so when his officers are going out on the road to meet with they get a call to go out on the road, and it's a call involving somebody who's on the edge. They don't default to a gun. They don't default to a taser. If the situation permits, they de-escalate. And that's something that's huge that doesn't happen in other communities, because talk about a benefit to our community. We're not looking at lawsuits against our sheriff for undue force, because what he does. And one of the things that he does, and I promise I'll shut up now. One of the things that he does is he says to all of his staff, treat everyone as you would your mother. And that really is something that's important, because if you're out there and you're on a call You want people to be treated with respect. Even those folks who have committed a crime, they need to be treated with respect. Safety at the same time, but respect.
Sam Turner, the question to you, how do you rate the job Boone County law enforcement does, its strengths, its weaknesses, its needs?
Well, I have 4 quick answers on that. How do I rate them? 15 out of 10. I mean, they're doing outstanding work. Their strength is that some of the things that Janet said, some of the things that Cherie have said, you know, they really do work hard every day. They run towards the crime, not away from it. They make sure that everyone going to bed at night is safe. The weakness is there's just not enough of them, and their needs is they need more funding to get more of them on the road. And I'm not talking about raising taxes. I'm talking about reallocating funds to make sure the sheriff's department, or talking about this $44 million increase or $14 million increase, find ways to where we can hire more sheriff deputies and get them on the road to make our streets safer.
Justin Aldred, same question.
Yeah, to answer the question, top of the line, by all means. I think that Sheriff Carey's superpower is truly in his relationship building. It's how Boone County has become a leader amongst the sheriffs and amongst the counties. He has done everything from CIT training, as Janet said, to canine training and bringing in other sheriffs, other deputies, other departments. And that's why with this new law enforcement training center, we will have a top of the line regional law enforcement training center. As far as weaknesses and needs go, I think the real thing is not number of officers, but high quality officers. I think he has a lot. I think Dwayne Carey holds officers to very high standards. And I think that he can keep officers that have very high standards when they are provided proper child care.
Anybody want to follow up? Any additional time, Sam?
Yeah, I think that thanks to Senator Caleb Brown and Cherie that we got the training center brought here to Boone County. We need more deputies, but we don't even just need more deputies. Like Justin said, it's a quality thing, but we need both. We need quality officers and we need quantity on officers too. So it's not just one or the other. It's got to be both.
And to echo this, I mean, you're going to hear this again, but when the governor put the money towards the training center and towards this child care center, we're talking about not just a great thing for Boone County to bring in that training, but we're going to be able to draw more people to not only the sheriff's office, but also our 911 campus, because those 911 call takers are also those 24/7 workers. So they're going to be able to have access, and they're the folks of childbearing years. So it's really important to be able to attract and keep those folks with both the training center, but more importantly, that child care center.
Cherie or Justin, anybody? All right, we're getting close to the end of this. And I was thinking about this today. If I stopped a random sample of people in downtown Columbia and asked them who their Boone County commissioner is, I wonder what percentage would know. And I thought about that for a while this afternoon, and I thought even educated, successful individuals like my wife probably couldn't tell me. So my question, and we start with Janet Thompson, what would you tell those people about the importance of the Boone County Commission and commissioners?
So the first thing, this is so funny that you've asked this question, because for the last couple of days, I have felt like I've been doing County Government 101 with some people, because when people think that, when you're door knocking, like Justin said, if you're door knocking in the city of Columbia, people will say to you, well, you don't have anything to do with me because I live in the city of Columbia. And I say, okay, so look at a map. And those of you who are of an age, think back to those overlays that your teachers put on the overhead projector. The first layer of the map would be the United States. The next layer of the map would be the state of Missouri. The next layer of the map might be, for Cherie, it'd be Hallsville. For Sam, it'd be Ashland. For some of you, it'd be Columbia. It's all layered. It's state, it's country, it's state, it's county, and then it's municipality. And what we do as a county is provide services that are part of your everyday life. The county runs the jail. The county runs the courthouse. The county runs the election election process. The county is part of that public administrator. The county is the place where the prosecutor's function stands. And the county commission helps to manage all of the property of the county and manages the budget of the county, along with a lot of duties as assigned.
Sam Turner, same question to you. If I had these people, and many of them are not going to know who you all are and not going to know who represents them. They wouldn't know whether they were in the North or the South District, let alone who represents them. What would you tell them about the importance?
Well, I trust me, I know firsthand what that's like going to my church small group when I announced I was running for county commissioner. We're all a group of anywhere from 25 to 35-year-olds. And the first question I got was, what's a county commissioner? And like we laugh, we chuckle, and it's just
Kind of sad.
you got to think about what these folks are going through right now when they're 25 to 34 years old. I'm raising 3 kids. I've started a business. Like, it is hard to grasp everything that's going on in life when you feel like you're drowning every single day, right? So when I talk to this group, I'm like, well, the county does X, Y, Z. Oh, I didn't know that. I just thought the state legislature did that. No, that's actually the county that does that. You know, when you start talking about property taxes, real estate taxes, that goes to the county. And I think what fortunately for Justin and I, we're both younger individuals, right? So we can talk and we can relate to these folks that are going through these things. And you think about District 1 in Southwest Columbia and Ashland, there's a lot of young families down there. And being able to, drop my son off at the kindergarten line on school, and I have a Sam Turner for Commissioner polo on, and there's 25 signs in the town of Ashland right now that's got Sam Turner on it from local and small businesses. They're like, okay, he's doing that. He's able to do that. I can start following along a little bit closer. So I think I got my ticker, but I think that's it. You got to start showing from people at a young age that, yes, I know you're drowning in life right now, but you still need to be a responsible citizen and know what's going on with your local legislatures.
Justin Aldred, same scenario for you.
Yeah, I think it's no secret. I think that each one of us, even from childhood, has an image of their mind of what, say, the president of the United States should be, that ideal person that fills that role. We pretend we know exactly what that person does. But all the way down at the bottom of the ballot is county government, local government, and that affects people so much because that's public safety. As Janet said, that's elections, that's emergency management, that's planning and zoning, that's land use, that's public works, that's road and bridge. So many things that truly do affect, the day-to-day lives. And that's back to, once again, putting food on the table, driving down your road, buying your house. Those are all things that the county commission has an effect on.
Cherie Tolson-Reich, same question.
I think the county commission's primary goal is the budget and managing that, but I find it a sad state of affairs. We're a very educated community with our universities and colleges, but this is basic civics 101. So I don't care what part of Boone County you live in. If you don't know your county commissioner, then they have not been in your community. They have not been in your business. They have not come talk to your groups. I think everybody in the county should know who their 3 county commissioners are. I can tell you Cole County people do, Cooper County people do, but are we that big that people have lost sight of local government and what a county commissioner does? I think there needs to be some education out there, or our commissioners are not in the communities where they need to be and listening to the people on the ground.
A follow-up available to anybody right now?
Cool. Thank you, Cherie, because this is so important, and this is a project that I'm involved in right now with the Missouri Association of Counties. There's a program out there, and some of you may have heard of it. It's called iCivics. And iCivics was created by Sandra Day O'Connor, who was the first woman justice on the United States Supreme Court. Because Justice O'Connor started her career in public service on the local level. And she realized, Cherie may disagree with this, but she realized that across the country, People don't know what happens at the local level. They sort of get what happens at the state level. They sort of get what happens at the national level. They don't have a clue about local. So iCivics is a program, and there's two versions of it. There's one for grade school and there's one for high school. And so stay tuned, because Elaine George, who is Ms. 4-H up in Hallsville, has promised that we can start this program in her 4-H club to start educating folks on local government and using that program to say, this is what your local government does. And to Sam's point, that's really important, because those kids are the people that David's successor will be interviewing 20 years from now.
Anybody else?
Well, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank groups like the Columbia Board of Realtors for putting on events like this so we can have our voice heard. Because honestly, running on a presidential cycle feels like screaming into a void sometimes. So once again, thank you all so much for being here and taking time out of your busy day to be here to learn this.
It's time for closing statements. Each person has 60 seconds. We're going to start with Justin Aldred, the reverse of what we did in the opening statement. Remember, 60 seconds to offer us a final word tonight.
Yep. Thank you. The next iteration of the Boone County Commission will determine the basis for land use and policy for the next 25 years at least. It is incumbent upon the next commission to build stable, smart, reliable policy to support both the needs of the community and infrastructure growth for the future. In my time on the commission, I've worked towards building a regional law enforcement training center with our sheriff, increasing access to affordable childcare for first responders and dedicated 911 dispatchers, investments in food security for the food bank for Central and Northeast Missouri that serves not just our community, but a 32-county stronghold across the state of Missouri. That's in addition to comprehensive updates to the Boone County Master Plan for the first time in 25 years. That's the work I've started in my first term and will continue in my second term as Boone County Commissioner. I'm absolutely humbled to have been one of Como Business Times 20 Under 40 this year. I'm humbled to have the support and endorsement of Liona Local 955 workers, and I would humbly ask for your vote in November, and I would specifically ask that when you vote, that you take time to vote up and down the ballot. Thank you.
Sam Turner, you've got 60 seconds to wrap your comments up tonight.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I want to thank the Board of Realtors to putting this on. It's November. It seems like it's so far away, but it's only 47 days to the election or something like that. Not that us candidates are counting down, right? But over the last 10 months of campaigning, of missing family dinners, of missing dance recitals, I have learned an immense about what this county wants, what this county needs. And I hope as a county commissioner that I can bring more sheriff deputies to the road, that we can start paving more gravel roads. I think that just learned yesterday with my endorsement from the CPOA that they trust me from a sense that they know that I'm going to bring more law enforcement to help bring crime down in Boone County. At the end of the day, I'm a small business owner. I have a family of 3 kids and an amazing wife. I relate to a lot of people out there that's going through the same things that I'm going through right now. And as county commissioner, I bring that level head and common sense to the county commission. Thank you.
Janet Thompson, your closing comments.
Thank you again. Thank you, Brian, and to the Board of Realtors for making this opportunity available to us. This is great to be able to talk about local government. You know, in the last 12 years, I've had the pleasure of representing Boone County and bringing resources back to Boone County through my involvement, not only here in Boone County, but through the Missouri Association of Counties. I'm on leadership there. I chair the Police, Justice and Mental Health Steering Committee for the Missouri Association of Counties. I'm the vice chair at the national level through the National Association of Counties of the Justice and Public Safety Committee, and I'm the chair of Healthy Counties through NACO. I've served as the liaison to the National Association of Counties and to the National Sheriff's Association to do away with something called the Federal Medicaid Inmate Exclusion Policy. It's a policy that puts such a burden on local government, specifically our sheriffs, for the care of folks who lose their Medicaid benefits when they enter the jail. I appreciate all of your time this evening, and I hope that I will garner your support in November. Thank you.
Cherie Tolson Reich.
I want to thank the realtors in my 4 terms as state rep. Their PAC has financially supported me. They believe in me, and they know I work hard for the people in Boone County. The Missouri House and Senate has term limits. My opponent has been in office 12 years, and I think that's long enough. We need Sam Turner and I both elected, because if just one or the other is elected, we won't be able to do any good to the county of Boone. If you want any more money from the state of Missouri, you need to elect a Republican, because they won't listen to Democrats down there. We need to look at the money, and we need to look at what this county commission has misled you on this property tax freeze. They weren't going to do anything. They flip-flopped. They put it on the ballot when they didn't need to. I've had to do an initiative petition. Then they did it in the dead of night. They said, wait till the legislature passes a change, and we did in May. And in the dead of night, over Memorial week, they passed a partial freeze when the new law didn't go into effect till August 28th. You can't trust this commission. You can't afford to be in Boone County. You need to bring common sense, fiscal responsibility to this county commission, and Sam Turner and I can do that. Thank you very much.
Some of you will vote early. Some of you will wait until that Tuesday in November, whatever it is. Hope you're educated. Hope you will cast good ballots. And we thank you tonight for paying attention. Those who have been online and those who have been in the building here, you might be able to catch some of them and tell them they've done a good job, or tell them they need to refresh and do this a little bit better. But whatever it is, hope you have a good conversation with our candidates. And thank you all very much. Thank you, Board of Realtors, for allowing me to have a part in this. Good night and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, David.